Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a linguistic framework that is so incredibly simple, yet absolutely powerful. We're looking at how the things we choose to talk about actually act as a direct mirror, reflecting our level of cognitive engagement. This isn't just about the words coming out of our mouths, it's practically a diagnostic tool for our everyday lives. It's really an exploration into how the scope of our discussions literally defines the boundaries of our intellect. Let's get right into it. Okay, take a look at this quote. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Just 13 words. There's no punctuation, no filler, just a raw, unbroken statement that lays out a complete hierarchy of human interaction. It's essentially arguing that the scale of a mind is directly proportional to the subject matter it decides to process. But before we really break down the mechanics here, I want you to ask yourself a question. What does your daily conversation reveal about you? This is exactly why this whole concept matters. We're going to use these 13 words as a roadmap for a bit of self-reflection. Think about it. When you texted a friend this morning or chatted with a coworker at the coffee machine, what was the actual substance of that exchange? Keep that thought in the back of your mind as we start climbing this ladder.
All right, Section 1, the framework of minds. Let's look at the structure.
So the text explicitly links three very specific adjectives to the concept of the mind: small, average, and great. Now, just to be clear, the source material isn't talking about the biological size of your brain or anything like that. It's laying out a clear hierarchy of mental capacity and focus. It's suggesting a spectrum, really, of intellectual bandwidth. Small implies a highly restricted, localized focus. Average represents the baseline operational norm, where we spend most of our time. And great points to a vast, expansive capacity.
And this brilliantly sets up what is basically an ascending ladder of discourse. The text elegantly maps those three types of minds to three progressive tiers of conversation: people, events, and ideas. To move all the way from step 1 up to step 3, well, that requires a very conscious shift in exactly how we engage with the world around us.
Moving right along to Section 2, small minds discuss people. Conceptually defined within the context of our quote, what does this actually look like? Well, it means dedicating your cognitive efforts strictly to talking about other people. It's focusing all that conversational energy on the traits, the personal lives, the specific actions, or, let's be honest, the rumors surrounding individuals. In practice, this is your classic, hey, did you hear what happened to John's neighbor? Territory. It's highly specific, localized, and ultimately totally confined to the limits of a single person's existence.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. When a conversation is entirely restricted to these interpersonal topics, the text classifies the mind as operating at a small capacity. And the source uses the word small specifically because the scope of the subject matter is just so intensely narrow. If you're spending your time only discussing who did what to whom, your intellectual horizon is firmly bounded by those specific personalities. It's just a closed loop. Let's see how this builds, though. Stepping up from simply discussing the who to discussing what happened represents a very deliberate cognitive elevation. It's like we're panning the camera back, we're moving away from just staring at the individual actors on the stage, and we're starting to look at the actual plot of the play itself. Which brings us to Section 3, average minds discuss events. Based directly on the text, elevating our discourse up to events means talking about the occurrences themselves. We're no longer just scrutinizing the individuals caught up in a situation. Instead, we're examining the broader situations and circumstantial happenings. This could be talking about the morning news, a big sports match, a historical milestone, or just a local community gathering. The entire focus shifts to the timeline of action. Now, what's really fascinating here is the use of the word average. Discussing events is labeled as the norm. It represents an average level of intellectual engagement. And it is super important to recognize that in the context of this text, average is definitely not an insult. It's simply the statistical middle ground. It's a totally necessary, functional gear of daily human life. We literally have to discuss events to coordinate our lives, to survive, and to navigate our environment. But the text heavily urges us not to just stop there. Ascending one final time, we can contrast the act of merely recounting these circumstantial events with the much deeper, more complex act of exploring underlying concepts. We hit the ultimate pivot point. It's that massive leap from looking at what happened to asking, wait, why did it happen? And what does this actually mean for the future? This requires abstract thought, which naturally takes us right to our final tier. And here we are at Section 4, Great Minds Discuss Ideas. This highest tier defines a state of discourse that totally transcends mere people and situational occurrences. It focuses purely on conceptual thinking. This is the realm of philosophies, massive systems, groundbreaking innovations, and that fundamental why. When you discuss ideas, you aren't bound by a specific person's flaws or a specific event's timeline. Instead, you're dealing with the invisible forces that actively shape our reality. The text makes it absolutely crystal clear that unlocking a great mind requires shifting our conversational focus heavily toward these ideas. A great mind isn't characterized by knowing the juiciest gossip or memorizing the most dates of random historical events. According to the source, greatness of mind is achieved through the capacity to generate, debate, and share ideas. Ideas are practically limitless, and therefore a mind focused on them becomes completely expansive.
Let's take a second to summarize this entire 13-word framework. Small equals people, average equals events, great equals ideas. It is a stark, brilliantly simple rubric. It takes all the messy complexity of human communication and distills it into an incredibly efficient diagnostic tool for our own intellectual habits. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative challenge derived directly from the implications of our source text. When you step away from this explainer and engage in your very next conversation today, which level of the ladder are you going to choose? Will you settle for the localized focus of people, rest comfortably in the necessary middle ground of events, or push yourself to ascend and explore the limitless realm of ideas? The choice, and ultimately the mind you cultivate, is entirely up to you.